On today's episode, we are once again joined by the Strickland's Bailey Liao. This time to break down the Knicks defense, how to slow down Cade Cunningham, why some combination of OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson could be the key. We get into it now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You are Locked On Knicks, your favorite daily New York Knicks podcast. What's up, guys? I'm Gavin Schall. I'm your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster, and you can also check me out as the Saturday co-host of the Locked On NBA podcast. So this week, I'm going to be hosting on Sunday, so I can have you covered Saturday after Game 1 of Knicks Pistons. But one final time, this is a reminder. This is Locked On Knicks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your daily podcast on the New York Knicks, even the most detailed insight on your favorite team 5 days a week, and sometimes more. Like this week, it's going to be more like 9 times. So be sure to join thousands of other Knicks fans and subscribing on both YouTube and your favorite podcast platform for the best insight on your favorite team every single day. But if you're a real sicko, and that's not quite enough for you, we wanted to remind you that we now have a newsletter here over at Locked On Knicks. It's the one-stop shop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. You can sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. It's LockedOnDaily.com and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Knicks newsletter to get writing from Alex and I all throughout the playoffs, and of course our team of national writers here at Locked On. On today's show, we are going to continue talking Knicks Pistons. I know, big shocker. And we're going to get into how to stop Cade Cunningham. And I know we talked about that. I mentioned at the end of last show, like a little bit on Monday, but this is more of like a complete X's and O's deep dive. What are the different coverages the Knicks could play? How do things change if Mikal gets the initial matchup? How do things change if OG gets the initial matchup? How do things really change if Mitchell Robinson's on the floor? We get into all of it with Bailey right now here on Locked On Knicks. All right, let's flip to the other side of the ball. I know this is the main schematic conversation about the series. How do the Knicks slow down Cade Cunningham? I've read out the stats a bunch of times on this pod, and they nauseate me. I'll do them one final time, and then never again before we start the series. 31 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 56-52, 80 splits, 13-25 from 3, 3-1 assist to turnover ratio for Cade against the Knicks. And like the biggest thing for me was just that the Knicks were at least. You know what? I'll say all 3 of the last 3 games, maybe by design. The fourth game where they put Deuce McBride on him and just kind of let Deuce shoot over him, or let him shoot over Deuce essentially, and like weren't really like maybe putting their best foot forward in that game. The theme, I think, is that they were just completely unable to make Cade uncomfortable. And you spoke about Mikal being capable in this matchup. My concern is just purely from a physicality perspective, a fighting around screens perspective. Like, how much is Mikal able to bother Cade at the point of attack? And even that third game, which was Cade's best game of the series against the Knicks, he started off 2 for 7, and Mikal did like a pretty good job in screen navigation, did a pretty good job in backside contest, did a pretty good job recovering and finding a way to get back in front. But I think my biggest fear is that we open this series and Mikal is getting crushed by Duren, crushed by Stewart, Cat's in a deep drop, and Cade, who the Knicks, I think, consistently treated more like a B or B- shooter, which, to be fair, that's who he's been for most of his career, instead of an A or A- shooter. And Cade shot like an A or A- shooter against the Knicks. And I think if he's able to get up a high volume threes and hit a high volume threes and get that confidence early, because Cat is in such a deep drop, I do think that could be an avenue for Detroit stealing a game in New York and being very competitive in this series.
Yeah, I mean, I personally would start OG on Cade.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if that will happen. Mm-hmm. So I think like what the Knicks will probably do is I think they'll start Mikal on Cade, and then they'll just play a very aggressive coverage with Cat and not have Cat in drop. I think every time you see Duren set a screen, you're going to see Cat just come up to the level and maybe even blitz and try to get the ball out of Cade's hands, which the Knicks have done before fairly successfully. And they've actually done this against Cade, kind of unsuccessfully, but also during the games against the Pistons, when they would do that, they would also revert back to more of a traditional drop. And I think if you want Mikal on Cade, you just have to have Cat basically blitz every single possession. And it's not like the worst call in the world, in my opinion, just because then you're asking a secondary playmaker for the Pistons to really step up. And that, I think, is a winning formula for the Knicks. If you can get the ball out of Cade's hands and make someone else beat you, even on like a 4-on-3, I think for the most part, that'll probably work out in your favor. Now, oh, sorry, go on.
No, just a quick question off that. What do you, if you have OG on Cade, do you then have Cat play more of a traditional drop, counting on OG to get around the screen a little bit more? Because I think my concern with OG on Cade is that then when Detroit plays 4-on-3, you don't have any backline rim protection with OG on the ball.
Yes. So the reason I like OG on Cade more is you have variation. So you can still blitz, or you can just play Cat in a more traditional drop, and I would feel a lot more comfortable with Cat in a traditional drop with OG. The second thing that really worries me about Mikal on Cat, well, there are two things that worries me about Mikal on Cade. The first is, and this is like super, super biased because of that third game and how the third game ended, but that guard screen really scares me, because in that situation where Mikal's on Cade and you bring Brunson into the action, you're asking to fix that problem by doing something maybe that the Knicks haven't done all season. So I don't really know what the solution to that is, other than like play it better. You know what I mean? And like, I feel like that's something that's hard to see changing. And that's going to be a play that's really difficult for the Knicks to defend.
Can you clarify what are you asking the Knicks to do that they haven't done all year on that?
I'm not sure. That's like kind of where, like, if the Pistons are running that play, you're kind of just asking them to execute it cleaner, right? Brunson's in a hard show. Or you switch it, which like the Knicks just have a tendency not to do. You've seen it like a couple of spots in big games. Like they did it.
Look at the end of the Cavs game, right? Like that's how Cleveland got their last 3 buckets, was like Brunson showing Mikal unable to get back into, or Brunson really unable to get back in time. But Mikal didn't have a chance because he was like, all right, if Brunson could not bail, and Cleveland ran it very cleanly with Strus popping on those. But if you have OG in that situation, he probably blows up that screen and just gets through.
Yeah, so that's why I think OG makes more sense to me, is because that play specifically worries me. With Mikal and Brunson, I don't know, like, what, unless you want to switch that, and I know the Knicks don't want to switch that, then like, what are you really asking of them? You're just asking them to execute better, which I don't think like necessarily is like very, very plausible. So instead, you can just put OG on that possession, then like you're asking OG to be super, super physical, like blow that screen up. Don't let them actually get like a really clean screen set. And to defend Mikal here, Mikal has done that throughout the season also. Like there have been spots where he plays very physical. He's in the dribbling pocket of the offensive player and like making it very uncomfortable to get around that screen. It's just, if you don't have that on constantly, then like that play is going to be really difficult for the Knicks to defend.
And I do think I think one, you nailed it on Mikal's physicality, because I look back at those Cleveland plays and you can say like, all right, well, that's not like who like Mikal is from a physical perspective. From the same other side of the coin, I guess, like he should be able to fight through like a Max Strus screen. And I don't know who's popping up, and I mean, it's whoever's Brunson on. Like if it's Malik Beasley, if it's Tim Hardaway, like Mikal should be able to blow that up. He should be able to get through. But we saw, and in that Cavs game, like even though it's a big situation, it's a 2-point game, like he looked like he was going 50%. He looked like he would rather be anywhere else. And I don't think we'll get that from him in the playoffs, but just the body language and the effort at times has vacillated so much with him that it is something I'm watching. And especially if he's like not getting touches, not getting shots, does that affect the effort on the other end of the floor? But it is a much cleaner solution with OG and Anunoby in there, because you just don't have to think about it in the same way. But first, we want to tell you about our good friends over at Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in markets, development, design, and more, experts ready to take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Finding the right talent. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. Fast and easy hiring. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day with multiple qualified candidates to choose from, and cost-effective growth, including hiring full-time. Upwork finds affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale my business efficiently. So visit Upwork.com right now. Post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com. Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today.
Yeah, and let me touch on the second thing I'm actually worried about with
sure.
Mikal. I think when Mikal is guarding Cade, and let's assume if Cade is playing against Mikal and Cat is actually in drop, let's just say like that's a losing formula, right? I know like I'm not giving Mikal enough credit here because it might not be. Like if Mikal plays really physical, he has a good defensive game. That's not necessarily the case, right? If it is the case, then like there's actually been situations where teams have figured out how to stop Cat from playing at the level, right? So you saw this against the Celtics where like if Duran is playing deep in the paint, he sets up in the paint and then he gets a screen before he screens for Cat. The Knicks don't really have an answer for that when Cat's trailing the play and not at the level. Then Cade's just playing against drop again. Right. So even if your scheme is, hey, every time you get this Duran screen, we're going to try to blitz, it might not always happen like that if the Pistons can adjust and be like, oh, we're just going to screen Cat before Duran sets the screen. Right. Now, the Knicks in that Celtics game actually countered that in the third quarter where they had the great third quarter run against the Celtics. They countered that by switching OG onto Tatum. OG is just much stronger as a point of attack defender, and he shades Tatum really, really strongly to Tatum's left, and then Cat can actually come up and just guard kind of like that left side. So Cat doesn't have to figure out which side the screen's getting set on. They kind of just like accept like, oh, if the screen gets set on OG's side, then I'm trusting OG gets over. If it gets set on the other side, then Cat's already in position. He doesn't have to like flip his hips to try to like run to the other side. And that doesn't happen with Mikal. Mikal doesn't play that physically. He also doesn't shade as strongly as OG. So you're putting Cat in a position where he has to like really be at the level every single play, and there's no margin of error. Now that might not happen, right? But like if the Pistons watch some of these games that the Knicks have played against the Celtics, it's a formula that with Mikal, the Knicks haven't really figured out yet how to get around that. And they have figured it out with OG on Cade. So that's just one of the other things I'm a little concerned about if Mikal stays on Cade throughout the series.
And it's another point to the idea that just like some of this is like we put a lot of this stuff on Tibbs. Some of it is execution. And at times this year, this Knicks team has just been really, really poor in terms of like communication and recognition, but also just sheer effort. And like that's part of what like scares me about this series is like I have in my notes in some of these games, like Knicks are playing hard and the Detroit just plays harder and Detroit just plays more physical. And I like starting from like honestly that last game against the Pistons, I was saying there's a comparison to be made between this Pistons team and like the we believe 2021 Knicks, just in terms of their sheer effort, their sheer fight, and sure, like this version of Detroit is more talented, and I think Cade Cunningham is much more playoff proof than Julius Randle is, but just in terms of like attitude and physicality, and even the 22-23 Knicks, like I think there is some real overlap, and like if Detroit like lands a punch, like can like New York get back up from that, and I think a lot of it is just like I want to see if there's a switch to be flipped for the Knicks, like what I was talking about with Mikal getting around that screen. And like for Cat, to your point, like a lot of that is just effort. Like if he's being chipped before coming into an action, so many times Cat's defensive issue, like his main issue on defense is just lethargy and just not moving very quickly. And it's very similar to what we saw from Julius Randle in the past, where like in a switch situation where he's one-on-one and he has some momentum and it's about his pride, you see him engaged and you see him moving his feet and you see the hands high. But when he's in drop and he's playing like any kind of like passive coverage or he's a little bit gassed and you're making him run through multiple screens, like the hands go down, he stops moving as quickly. And that's where I think like the Knicks could just die in some of these games. And I think sometimes those situations, it is worth more than just one basket where the Knicks see their star like giving up points just because he's not moving fast enough, or he doesn't quite have the cardio, or the communication isn't there. Like even during that Celtics run you described, where Cat and OG were executing off the ball really, really well. There was a play where they didn't communicate on like a Porzingis like off ball. Like I think it was Tatum and Porzingis just sort of running off each other off the ball, and both guys stuck with Tatum, and Porzingis just popped for a wing three. And like I don't know if that was on OG, I don't know if that was on Cat, but I could have said that a million different times this year where the Knicks have a switch, and I'm like, I don't know whose fault it was, but I know it was one of their faults. And we saw that especially early against Detroit with someone like a Malik Beasley, where the Pistons run off-ball stuff, and the Knicks just don't know where to switch. As far as Cat at the level, like I know you just said you're comfortable with Mikal, that being the default. Like, how concerned are you about foul trouble with that? And how concerned are you about Cat just like immediately getting toasted? Because we saw that a little bit in the third game. Once Cade got a rhythm, like I remember there's one play where Cade just hit him really quickly with a left to right crossover, and he was gone. He was past Cat, and it was 4-on-3 going downhill for Cade.
Yeah, the foul trouble is a real concern. I think he just has to be careful. Like you have to understand it's a playoff series. Like you can't be picking up really, really silly fouls, and it's one of the more frustrating things. But there have been a lot of frustrating things during the season. That's also one of the frustrating things. And you just have to hope that in the course of a playoff series, he plays a little smarter. Don't be doing some of the stupid fouls that you pick up. But yeah, it'll be important for him to stay on the court.
Yeah, it has been. I'm trying to pull up his all-time playoff game log now. It has been a real issue for him in his playoff career, picking up fouls. He's not generally been. He's a little better last year. Yeah. Before he couldn't play 30 minutes in a playoff game for that reason. I do think the one upside is when Cat's off the floor, to your point, you get Mitchell Robinson, and like I do think and you referenced it, like just how quickly they're going to, like when Cade starts cooking, how quickly they go to Mitch. Mitch does give you the ability to play drop, which obviously is Tom Thibodeau's preferred defense. I would say everyone on this team, even if it doesn't always work, is probably more comfortable playing drop, just because the Knicks waited, I think, a little too late in the season to start experimenting with switching Cat, to start experimenting with switching, to start having Brunson show and recover even a little bit more, right? Like they are much more comfortable playing drop, because that has been 96%, I would guess, of what they've done against pick and rolls over the course of the year. And with Mitchell Robinson in there, and it could be Mikal, because I think Mikal's a lot better, obviously defending on the ball, knowing he has Mitch back there and he's able to operate a little bit differently. Or if it's OG, and we watched OG and Mitch as a duo, I would have wanted to see it more against when Porzingis was in, but in that Celtics game when it was Tatum and Cornet, and time again, they played that perfectly and just were able to snuff it out. Like one of the deadlier pick and roll combos in the NBA, and Cornet's been that good for the Celtics this year. And those two as a duo, like there are just very few teams that have two guys that are that good defensively in drop playing together. I think that is the way you could really smother Cade. And it is if I were to it is not good for the Knicks to not have Karl-Anthony Towns on the floor. Obviously, is the highest net rating on the team this season. If there is a way for me to comfort myself, a teddy bear for me, if Cat gets into foul trouble, it's that I think you all of a sudden have a very, very real answer for this Detroit offense. And I don't really know how the Pistons counter when Mitch is on the floor, and you kind of get to play that straight up.
It's awesome. As you're talking through this, it's almost like you're talking about a team with so many riches. This team has so many different options, so many different lineups situationally to be that you can use to play against different situations. And it is a shame that we haven't really seen it experimented with a lot during the season. But if situations are forced, you have a really, really good backup center that's one of the best offensive rebounders in the entire NBA, and also a really, really good defender. And that'll help, as you mentioned, that'll help Mikal a lot, right? Because Mikal playing from behind and trailing a play, he has the length to get back into the play. Yeah. It's kind of what the Sixers wanted to do last year against Brunson, right? With Kelly Oubre and Embiid kind of bracketing Brunson. You can kind of do stuff like that just because you have so many different options on your roster. So yeah, it'll be good to see how, as the series goes on, how these different pieces get used by Tibbs.
Yeah, I think a lot of those with Cat on the floor, those either walk-in threes or if Cat's in a really deep drop, like short jumpers for Cade, turn into mid-range jumpers with Mikal flying in from behind to like alter a shot, which is going to be a real challenge for him. I touched on it a little bit, but how do you see the defense looking like if the Knicks do go double big for this is way more than they played in the regular season, but hypothetically, not having the back-to-backs, they start going double big 8, 9, 10 minutes a game. What does that look like? Because is it Detroit like still using their center screening? Do they say no, we want Cat in this action, and like we're just going to bring up, let's just say Cat's hiding on Tobias Harris. We're going to bring up Tobias Harris and have him screen. We're going to have Tobias Harris pop to try to trip up Cat. Like does Cade still get his, knowing that Mitch is just waiting on that back line? Or if he's not, then you're not involving Cat at all in the play.
So I don't know what the Knicks will do.
Yeah.
But I'm really interested in those double big lineups. If they bring Cat into the play, I want to see the Knicks just switch it. Because like if you think about last playoffs, like Cat guarded Durant fairly often.
It's and a great call.
Not horribly. Now,
that was one of the main things when we traded for Cat. Like we had Ben Beacon of Locked on Wolves on, and he said, like, if you want to be encouraged about him defensively, go look at that Sun series and go look at what he did against Kevin Durant. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a little harder to justify when your help behind Cat is Josh Hart or OG. Yeah. But when your help behind Cat is Mitch Robinson, I would be super, super comfortable just, okay, if you want to pick on Cat, you want to bring Cat in the pick and roll, don't let Cat play drop. Just switch it. You have help behind you, and then see how the play plays out.
But first, we want to tell you about our good friends over at Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where the heck did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's super easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO. Giving you full visibility and control of your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop managing your money and you start building wealth. They offer surprising insights. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now, but just smarter and save more, all in one convenience instead of juggling multiple apps. You can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. They offer easy collaboration, managing money with your partner. Smoother than ever, you can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Yeah, to me, that is maybe as much as like the idea of just playing like volleyball off the rim, which the Knicks did against the Cavs 2 years ago to great success to basically win a series, is fun offensively. I'm more intrigued defensively by that double big lineup because, again, like I really do not see Detroit having answers for that. It is still a little bit of a mystery on how that actually looks on the floor with Jalen Brunson, because our guy Prez pointed this out on Twitter. They played those three together 2 minutes this entire season. So thanks, Tom Thibodeau. We have no real sample size of how that looks with like the Knicks' real lineups. But whether Brunson's out there, whether Brunson's not out there, I would hope for as much as Mitch can handle. I want him on the floor in this series. And I guess to your point, like maybe a little less so just because you want Cat popping for threes, and that's a way to score. Or maybe it will against this Detroit team. But I guess we can, unless you had any final notes on guarding Cade, what's your series prediction in this one?
I think Knicks take it 4-1, honestly. Yeah. There's one last thing that I'm trying to keep an eye out on that also kind of worries me. But one of the things on offense that the Knicks tend to go to is kind of that Cat post up. Yeah. I really just don't want to see it this series. Like the Pistons are great at post defense. I think they might actually be the best team defending post ups, but also like Cat's not great if the double is sent, and there are just so many different ways of attacking that are infinitely better. So I think if the Knicks play their median outcome game, I think they should win fairly easily. But yeah, I feel pretty good about a 4-1.
To clarify the Cat point, that even when there's a non-center on him, you don't want him posting up. Yeah.
And I actually looked this up. Tobias has been phenomenal as a guarding post-ups too. So Cat's an amazing talent. Cat plays well out of the post. If the Pistons want to play him straight up, I think that's like an avenue they're comfortable with having the Knicks attack. But also like they can start sending doubles. And when they start sending doubles, the Knicks haven't been great against the Cat post up when he gets doubled. So I just think like that's, if I'm the Pistons, I'm funneling the offense through that. Whatever like whatever I can do to get that as an outcome, that's probably what I'm trying to do if I'm Pistons.
Yeah, I think it's a little more viable, and I'm a little more okay with it when Cat's in there with the bench and you potentially have 4 shooters around him and the passes and the reads are simple, and he doesn't see Josh Hart and hesitate because he's like, wait, do I want to throw this to Josh Hart? Is he even going to shoot it? But if he sees Landry Shamet open, if he sees Mikal Bridges open, maybe that's a little easier. And I do think Cat improved over the course of the year in terms of, like, I think that Celtics game was the best example of it, just his patience in those situations and waiting out the double teams and still getting a good shot. But to your point, he was about as efficient as anyone could be against a great defense. Like, he just from a pure ball don't stop perspective, he was hooping. He was really hooping. And then you look at the stat line, and KP was just as efficient, even though I don't think he showed off nearly the variety of skill that Cat did, because he made 9 threes in the game. And that tells you everything you need to know about the math problem that is Cat posting up a whole bunch, especially when Cat, to your point, sometimes looks off or misses wide open guys behind the arc. Like, there were plays in that game where Deuce was OG in the corner and Cat just does not make the pass. So I'm with you there. My prediction, because I didn't actually get a chance to make it anywhere else. I wanted to get it in, Bailey, since it's our last pod. Nice. Before the series actually starts. I am going Knicks in 6. I see a world where Detroit could win this series, but it takes not counting potential injuries. It takes the Knicks just ignoring a lot of the advantages they have. And unfortunately, again, I'll end this pod on the same sour note I started on. The way Tom Thibodeau has coached his team, and I think the lack of recognition of what the strengths of this roster are, I don't think that's impossible, that the Knicks really play into Detroit's hands in a lot of ways. And I do think if games get tight down the stretch, we've seen Detroit in multiple games now, 3 games in the series, win games down the stretch by being the grittier team, being the smarter team, and just having role players who can hit big shots, having a star who can hit big shots. Obviously, you like the ball in Jalen Brunson's hands. I think if the Knicks become too reliant on that, we already touched on that in another pod, so we don't have to spend another 10 minutes on it, but a little too heliocentric, a little bit too, all right, Jalen is attacking 4 guys in the paint. I do think that can backfire on them, and that has been the Knicks' default in big games, in big moments, with very mixed results this year. So I'm hoping they diversify off that. And if they do, I think you'll get enough of a combination of a couple of Knicks 10 to 15 point wins and maybe 1 or 2 close wins mixed in with Detroit winning 1 or 2 games close, and the Knicks take it in 6. But my predictions are always wrong, so maybe that's a bad sign for New York. Bailey, before I let you go, can you tell everyone where they can find all your incredible work covering this team?
Yeah, you just find me on Twitter, Bailey Liao 1. I have most of my work there. Also, obviously, do stuff on the Strickland. So go check that out for great playoff content. All
right, seriously, guys, go follow Bailey. It will undoubtedly make you a smarter Knicks fan, smarter basketball fan in general. Until next time, he's Bailey. I'm Gavin. We'll talk to you soon on Locked On Knicks.